Welcome to the MSDW podcast. I'm Jason Gumpert, editor at MS Dynamics World. On this episode, we are talking about the connection between advances in AR software and the latest thinking on financial management and ERP systems. This episode is sponsored by Flywire, and my guest, product lead Chris Couch, walks us through the invoice to cash story from an AR and payments perspective. Chris shares a bit of his background in the AR automation space and how he has seen the technology and business case evolve in recent years up to his current role. We also discuss what's new with the solution Chris manages, Invoiced by Flywire, including its origins and growth, as well as its Dynamics 365 integrations. Chris also discusses some real-world use cases with us and tells us what the Microsoft community can expect in the near future from the solution. All right, I am here with Chris Couch. Chris, welcome to the podcast. Can we maybe start with a bit of an introduction about you and who you are and what you do?
Sure. Nice to be here, Jason. Chris Couch, obviously I'm running product for B2B at Flywire today. I've been in fintech software for 25 years plus. I actually started as a software developer. I have a computer science degree in accounting. Of course, when I graduated, I went and started building billing systems for telecom companies. And I've stayed in the AR and fintech space ever since. I joined a company called Invoiced about 6 years ago to run worldwide sales for them. We were acquired by Flywire in September of last year, and that has migrated into a go-to-market position leading invoice to cash product line for the B2B vertical.
All right, great. Yeah, and I'd like to learn a little more about the Invoice sort of origin story, its growth, its mission, and maybe a little bit more about, like you said, the acquisition by Flywire and what that really means. Can you tell us a little more about that background?
Sure. Invoice started in 2013. At the time, there was plenty of software to help automate and manage accounts payable processes. Right, so getting approvals, efficient payment of invoices, but nothing at all really on the market to manage or help AR teams manage their accounts receivable processes. So Invoiced came on the scene to be a modern accounts receivable automation platform. We're really designed to fit into any AR back office, focus on getting invoices out, collecting cash, making sure that finance teams had all the tools that they needed in order to automate all those processes. From there, we took off. The market really started to develop. AR automation is a crazy space today. We believe we're a leader there. We grew the company up until 2024, and we were acquired by Flywire in September. Flywire is a global payments company. They own and operate a proprietary global network. And so the match is one of those 1 + 1 = 3, right? Now we have not only a robust sort of market leading AR automation tool, we can now get to blend that with a global payments network and embed payments into everything that we do. Customers that work with us don't have to work with multiple different companies, no multiple silos between trying to get paid in different companies or get bank transfers or credit card payments. We can handle all of it. In fact, we handle something like 1,200 different payment methods, across 240 plus different currencies today. After the acquisition, or since the acquisition, Invoiced is now known as Invoiced by Flywire. Again, we're focused on now the entire invoice to cash lifecycle. So we've expanded the thought from just focusing on AR automation or AR processes to really what does it take to get invoices to turn into cash, right? And that really involves not only the AR team, but integrations to multiple external systems, as well as integrations to multiple payment methods. And it's proving to be a hit with our customers and the prospects that we're talking to.
Yeah, it's such an interesting story. And Flywire is a name that a lot of people will have encountered in various scenarios, right? Because of its footprint and its established sort of brand and what it does out in the world already, sort of separate or before the Invoiced acquisition and making that part of things. So I think it's a really interesting way that the stories have now kind of come together here. Since you have so much experience in this space, can you talk at all more about sort of what some of the more exciting or interesting sort of AR technology innovations have been that you think have sort of led you to this point?
Yeah, well, of course, one that I think we'll probably get into a little bit more is just ERPs in general. And ERPs are kind of vast systems with deep functional capabilities. But when it comes to being sort of nice communication tools for end customers, particularly on the AR side, they're not necessarily as robust. And so ERP systems over the last few years have really opened up. I mean, it's now much easier to integrate with them in kind of a real-time fashion than it used to be a few years ago. We've moved from having to do spreadsheet export and imports into ERP systems to now having real-time API integrations. Another trend that's coming or that is here really is, AI and agentic AI agents. They really help you do everything. So, I mean, if folks listening that are in accounts payable or accounts receivable know the pain of trying to take remittance advice or spreadsheets that come in different formats, maybe different reports from banks, and trying to normalize all that data into a format that then can be consumed by an accounting system or an ERP system. Leveraging AI in that space is really one of the things that is going to change the industry going forward, right? Making it just really easy to consume any information at any point in time and consume it from the perspective of being able to monetize it. So are these payments that are coming in? Is it remittance advice that's coming in? And then also just being able to drive information out of that data, right? So instead of having to spend a bunch of time and loading it into a data warehouse, I can now get a full picture of my accounts receivable, current standing with customers just by using some large language models.
Really interesting and plenty more for us to get into there, I think. Let's go back to what you sort of started that answer with, which was the ERP integration, because obviously that's one of the things we love to talk about here. There is an integration story between Invoiced by Flywire and Business Central, right? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
We actually have integrations to a number of different of the Dynamics line of products. Business Central is one of our self-serve integrations. So we're on the marketplace. You can hook up Business Central with a few clicks. We're strictly an API integration, so we don't install a bunch of software in your Business Central instance that needs to be managed. We think that's an advantage, but it's a near real-time integration going both directions. So you can add AR automation and payment capabilities really within a couple of clicks in a couple of minutes.
So that's obviously, I assume, a key point of what people need to know about the integration. I mean, are there other elements that the customers are particularly looking for when it comes to the value they're going to get out of the integration?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say the biggest value we bring is really just to simplify the AR team's job, right? So Business Central is a great product, right? It's robust. You can do a lot with it. You can really get in and program it and do whatever you want with it. We provide kind of this out of the box capability for AR teams to have their own pane of glass, right? Their own application that they can come in and look at, set up priorities, set up tasks, track where they're at and getting invoices to customers. Have those customers open those invoices? Are there questions on those invoices? Are there automation cadences or reminder cadences or past due cadences that you want to set up with those? What type of payments do you want to take? And if you're a multinational company, what kind of payments do you want to take in what countries or what geographic regions are they available? Those are all things that we make very easy for AR teams to do.
Are there any other industry stories or other particular use cases that you are really paying attention to right now that you think are relevant?
I think the rollout that we're seeing today is that people are using systems like ours to consolidate multiple implementations, right? So we have a customer that's a Dynamics F&O customer, actually called Covetris, and they've used Invoice to consolidate from 3 different ERP systems down into a single invoice to cash stream. So instead of having to try to integrate and manage 3 different F&O instances between different business lines, we can come in and manage, integrate between the 3 and manage in one single space or one single application, all of the AR for the company, as opposed to managing across 3 different ERP instances. That is a trend that we see more and more today, where companies, instead of trying to just consolidate all their ERPs, they're trying to use systems surrounding the ERPs to do that for them.
So I wanted to also learn a little bit more about the product roadmap. Can you tell us what you have planned?
Sure. I think, as I talked about earlier, it's sort of AI, right? That'll be front and center for us and most companies, I would imagine, coming over the next 9 to 12 months. So how do we leverage AI for you in order to make your life easier? It's an interesting balance, right? So in my conversations with CFOs and our current customer base, what I hear is that AI seems to have a lot of promise, but we don't trust it to be a center part of our financial operations yet, right? They still want to be able to have human intervention. They want to make sure that they're seeing things that are absolutely correct, as opposed to maybe getting a chat GPT response that is, less than accurate. So it's an interesting challenge, but it definitely is something in a tool like ours, which is not a core piece of the ERP, but one sort of work stream or workflow, right, around AR and invoice to cash, where we can figure out bits and pieces to make it easier, right? So answering automatic or agents that help answer questions around invoices, or to help configure cadences for reminders and emails. There's a lot of tools that we can add in sort of an R stream that CFOs are comfortable with and still get the time savings advantage of AI. The other piece that you'll see us focus on is just a deepening of payment experience improvement. We focus mainly on B2B. B2C payments have been efficient now for years, where you go to a website, you drop stuff in a shopping cart, you click on the cart, you click pay, you enter your payment information, and it's all taken care of. B2B payments are much more complicated. The payments are larger, the invoices are larger, usually paying multiple invoices at once. You probably aren't paying those with a credit card, you're paying them with some sort of wire or bank transfer. So getting the money to your vendor is one thing, and then once the vendor gets the money, trying to figure out how to apply that. So one of our missions is to get to a point where B2B payments have a feel and an experience for the payers, just like B2C payments would have. The other side of it is just deeper ERP integrations, right? They're evolving rapidly. Competition is always high. As I said earlier, we're seeing more and more capabilities come out in APIs for ERPs, which is something that is different than we saw a few years ago. And really staying on top of that and doing deeper and deeper integrations with, the entire Dynamics line, trying to get as real time as possible there is another sort of 9 to 12 month focus for us.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, all of those areas that you talked about, the two that I think of when it comes to the ERP in particular, just based on sort of some of the trends or areas where there's high priority, I think, from other interested parties in this space. One is on sort of filling in end-to-end processes, right? I think you certainly hear that from Microsoft and from like channel service providers in the Microsoft space. And then the other, I'm kind of always watching just because I find it really interesting, is sort of event-driven activities or event-driven capabilities, sort of from a technical perspective within ERPs. Do either of those line up with anything that you're watching?
Yeah, both. I mean, the filling in end-to-end processes is, I would argue that's what we do for invoice to cash and the AR side of things, right? We really try to fill the gaps in for AR teams. We're not trying not to step on anything to do with the ERPs. In fact, we try to stay focused on the fact that they're the system of record, but we want to help the AR teams be more efficient. Take a look at our integrations. We've done a pretty good job there. So event-driven, Invoiced is at its heart an event-driven system. That type of technical architecture allows you to build workflows more efficiently. And so bubbling that up to sort of the business benefits of it, it allows us to build much more robust customer experiences, right? So sometimes we refer to this invoice to cash system as kind of a CRM for accounts receivable, right? Being able to focus on growing your relationship and improving your relationship with your customers as you're trying to collect money from them. And using the communication capabilities that we have built into the system, coupled with sort of event-driven capabilities, we can get pretty nitty-gritty with, hey, customer asked this question, what do you do next? Customer made this payment, they maybe short paid you for some reason, what do you do next? And instead of just sort of leaving it and then questions arising, 30, 45, 60 days down the line, we can make sure that gets addressed very quickly and raise somebody that needs to own it, and greatly improves your customer relationships.
All right. Yeah, there's certainly a ton of interesting sort of activity driven or conversational driven possibilities there. A lot sounds like on your roadmap, so I really look forward to learning more. I know we do have more we have planned with your team. But Chris, thanks for taking the time to tell our listeners a little bit more about Flywire and Invoiced by Flywire and what you have planned.
Thanks for having me.
This has been another episode of the MSDW podcast. My thanks once again to Chris Couch for joining me. To learn more about Invoiced by Flywire and schedule a demo, check out the link in the show notes. And that's it for this episode. If you want to get in touch with me, you can send me an email, jason@msdynamicsworld.com. For all of our updates, please do follow us on LinkedIn. Until next time, this is MS Dynamics World, signing off.